Good evening. Welcome to a regular meeting of the East Windsor Regional School Board District Board of Education. Written advance notice that this meeting was provided at least 48 hours ago. Such notice provided the time, date, and location of this meeting and included the agenda to the extent it was known at the time. Notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with law. Minutes of this meeting are being kept by the board secretary and will be made available promptly to any member of the public requesting them from the board secretary at 25A Leshen Lane, Hightstown, New Jersey. Minutes will be provided at cost and in accordance with board policy. Are there any board members present who believe this meeting to be in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act? There being none, we may proceed. In compliance with the fire code of the state of New Jersey, I call your attention to the emergency exits for this room, which are located in the back and sides. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Item C, please.
Having read the materials received, I move the agenda be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any questions? Poll the board, please.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Bajoli,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Patel, Ms. Salter,
Yes.
Ms. Collier,
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes. Item D.
Be it resolved that the East Windsor Regional School District may hold 2 closed sessions at this meeting. These closed sessions concern personnel, level 4 grievance, ERISA MOA, administrative introduction, Suzanne Akeley, EMK assistant principal. Minutes of these closed sessions will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Second.
Any questions? Poll the board, please.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Bajoli,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Patel,
Yes.
Ms. Salter,
Yes.
Ms. Collier,
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes. Now we'll move on to item 2, presentations. And this is very exciting. We have Mary Ann Friedman from NJSBA with our strategic plan update. Welcome, Mary Ann.
I make it red, obviously. You're gonna be my clicker. I was gonna say, I would be proud to have you as my clicker. I promise I can handle it. Okay, so my name is Mary Ann Friedman. From New Jersey School Boards. I really want to thank the board and Mr. Daniels and the community and the staff and students and parents for allowing us to come in and facilitate this process for you. So I'm very pleased to give you the final plan. So strategic planning, what it does is it creates a district-wide vision and mission for the district that can really allow all stakeholders to become part of that plan and encourages the stakeholders to also go out and support the plan and provide others to encourage the plan so that they can work together to increase student achievement. So if you've been to our strategic planning, you're familiar with the waterfall effect. What happens is that once the strategic plan has been adopted by the board, and all the things that are occurring in the board will fall and flow from the strategic plan. So your district goals, which are annually set, your Board of Ed goals, annually set, administrators' goals, building goals, department student growth objectives, and then staff professional development plans. All of that will cascade down from the strategic planning goals and will increase ultimately student achievement for all students. So these are the components of strategic planning. The pyramid, our strategic planning pyramid, the commitment going up the side is the commitment of the Board of Education to not only have invited people in to participate in the plan, but also to listen to what they have to say. So the first meeting, we had information from Mr. Miller on the state of the district, the state of the schools report, and small groups identified strengths and challenges. We then, every group report, we did a gallery walk for that meeting, and then identified common themes for strengths and challenges. The second meeting was vision and initiatives. We asked you to think about, you've been away from East Windsor for about 5 years, you come back, you stop at a Wawa for gas, you go in to get coffee and you see Time Magazine, which miraculously is still in print 5 years from now, and it has a picture of East Windsor schools on it. It says schools that succeed. What would you expect to see in addition to all of the great things you had learned about at the previous meeting that are going on? What would you expect to see that would put you on the cover of Time Magazine? So each small group came up with a vision and initiatives, and then they reported out, and we had each group report out that time. So each small group reported out, and then we did a common themes on that as well. From that, we identified 5 district goal areas. They were very broad district goals. And then at the next meeting, we reviewed those goal areas, and then we asked everybody to take a look at the strengths and challenges and the vision and initiatives to put together a goal statement and several objectives for each of the goal areas. And that was accomplished. Once that was done, everything was turned over to Mr. Daniels as the superintendent for he and the administrative team to work together to develop the action plans. So what's included in your spirals is the full plan, including the action plans at the back. The board president, the superintendent, and the BA get a binder so that they can add things to as they go through. And the strategic plan is somewhat of a fluid process because you'll be looking at different district goals that will be taken from there, and district goals that you may have had. You may want to incorporate those into the strategic planning goals. And I believe your strategic planning goals are broad enough that you can do all of that within the strategic planning goals. So again, we had the State of the Schools report in the presentation the first night, identified strengths and challenges, developed the vision and initiatives the next night, developed the goal statements and objectives, and then the action plans were developed by the superintendent and administrative team. Tonight, the plan is being delivered to the board. The board will adopt the plan. I don't know whether you'll do that tonight or at an upcoming meeting. Whatever you would prefer to do is absolutely fine. Once the board adopts the plan though, excuse me, you need to let me know so I can send you the PDF version of this final plan so it can go up on your website so everybody can follow along with it. And then the action plans will be implemented by the administrative team and the superintendent, and it really does provide a framework for your annual district goal setting. So we had the planning meetings. You had fabulous participation for these 3 planning meetings. The first planning meeting was February 27th, and there were 62 participants. March 14th, you had 54, and April 17th, you had 41 participants. And that included Board of Education members, it included superintendent, staff, administrators, teachers, students, parents, and community members who all volunteered their time to really put in the time and effort and their talent to develop this strategic plan. And it really will guide the district over the next 3 to 5 years. And again, I apologize for my voice. I'm not sick. I don't have COVID. It's that vocal cord thing that I have going on. So your mission statement is through a safe, inclusive learning experience that is grounded in best practices. Students in the East Windsor Regional School District will develop and strengthen academic, social, and emotional skills needed in order to be successful, productive citizens. And serving every child every day, we will strive to increase achievement by challenging and supporting each student to reach his or her highest potential, address the needs of the whole child by ensuring all students feel healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged with opportunities for social, emotional learning and growth. Prepare all students with the skills and awareness necessary to actively contribute as productive local and global citizens, and provide professional staff with the knowledge, skills, and resources necessary for highly effective delivery of instruction and programs. So the 5 goal areas that were identified were student-centered learning, staffing, community engagement, facilities and finance, and climate and culture. And the first goal area, student-centered learning, the goal is to increase the academic achievement of all students through rigorous instruction as defined by increased collaboration, real-world application, increased engagement, and active inquiry. This will be measured by utilizing multimodal assessment and challenging each student to perform. And the objectives are STEM to increase exposure to those concepts and contents K through 12, achieve median growth, student growth percentile of 60 in every subpopulation in ELA, English Language Arts, math, and the New Jersey student learning assessments. And then 100% of staff will be trained to meet the needs of special education students, ensuring appropriate placement, student-teacher ratio, and support services are provided. The second goal is staffing, and that's to recruit and retain staff who reflect the rich background of our student population. Objectives are we will recruit committed staff with the ability to be flexible, adaptable, and able to cater to the diverse needs of our students, and we will place staff in areas of professional strength. The third is community engagement, to develop and foster lasting district-wide relationships that connect people of diverse backgrounds through every academic stage of life. And the objectives are to design and implement universal preschool that utilizes community resources, develop and implement summer opportunities to bridge schools and invest in future connections, develop community resources to immerse students and prepare students for their future interests, and design and host district-wide community events to engage and include families in all aspects of school life. The fourth area is facilities and finance, to create a safe and secure learning environment while remaining fiscally responsible. The objectives are to upgrade educational, athletic, and health facilities to be more energy and cost efficient. The second is to provide adequate dedicated faculty space for early childhood needs and education, and to leverage technology to streamline district operations. And the fifth is culture and climate, cultivate an inclusive and respectful climate for all stakeholders that inspires and values diversity of thought and opinion. The objectives are to foster a sense of belonging by increasing the level of participation in extracurriculars by 30%. All levels of stakeholders follow a shared code of conduct, administer a panorama survey twice a year to stakeholders of all levels, and increase the awareness and celebrate the varied cultures represented in the East Windsor Regional School District by infusing cultural learning into the curriculum. So as you can see, those are very lofty goals and objectives, and I'm sure that when you get a chance to look at the action plans, you'll see that they go along with the information that was provided at each of the meetings. This is what the action plan template looks like. It will identify the goal area and the goal statement and the objective, and then it will include major activities for that particular objective, who's responsible, board or staff, what are the resources that we need, which are usually time, people, or money, and then what are the timelines for those. Remember, everything can't happen in year one. Things will have to be paced over the next 3 to 5 years. You will need to build resources for some of the things that are in the action plans, so it may take a couple of years to achieve those, to build those resources. And then what are the indicators of success? How will we know that each of those major activities have been accomplished? So the next steps are that the board will review and then adopt the strategic plan. Administration implements the plan, and updates on the progress towards completion will be available at board meetings, on agenda items, the annual state of the strategic plan report, which we encourage to be done once a year, and the final plan, again, once it's been adopted by the board, will be posted on the district website so everybody can follow along. And these are your students, and they're wonderful kids, and some of them participated in the program, in the strategic planning process. So I want to thank you for your time and talent, everybody who attended. I see some familiar faces in the audience, so thank you for being there. And this really will guide the district over the next 3 to 5 years. So thank you so much to the board and to Mr. Daniels for having NJSBA facilitate this process. Any questions? Okay.
I'd like to just thank Mary Ann. Okay, all right, double mic, all right. Just want to thank Mary Ann, obviously, for kind of guiding us through this process. It actually seemed pretty, thanks to her, I think it felt somewhat efficient and streamlined, but yet meaningful. Obviously need to thank members of the community and staff for participating in those 3 input sessions. I thought the feedback was obviously valuable and it reflected the needs within the district. Marianne and I talked this week or last week, and she mentioned it just now. The district currently has some core goals, right, that we've kind of leaned on as some foundational goals. So there's a couple of those that I'm going to recommend that we move into the strategic plan. In particular, the goal that focuses on developing independent readers by grade 3, and obviously addressing the achievement gap with certain subgroup populations. So I want to make sure that that is evident in our plan as we move forward in an intentional way. But I think this enables us to have some clarity in terms of where we're going. Yes, it enables us to prioritize resources as we look 3 to 5 years ahead. And it also enables us to have a sense of a roadmap of sorts to ensure that we're moving in the direction that we've intended, and recognizing that there may be some challenges. You know, the big challenge right now that I anticipate, that I welcome though, is the need to establish a preschool program, a full-day preschool program within our community. We've hit some roadblocks as it relates to facilities in terms of having the necessary facilities to do that in a grand scale. But I'd like to think that we can prioritize some resources to at least pilot that initiative in the near future. So I thank the board as well for supporting this initiative. I think it enables us to have some clarity and some focus as a district as we move forward. So thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Let me just add one other thing. So tonight, the plan is not on the agenda for approval. So I'm going to recommend that the board have an opportunity to process what we have. We can revisit the discussion and we can talk, because the one piece that we need to still do is to actually develop some one-year goals based on the action plans and the goal areas. That has not been done yet. It will be done in short order, but I'm not looking for any approval tonight. This is really just Marianne following up with us to provide us with an update regarding the process that we engaged in. Okay.
Test.
Mark, do you have any idea, timeline for when we would?
I mean, I'm going to try to have a draft of some proposed one-year goals by the next board meeting. All right.
If we have no other questions, we'll move on to the second presentation, the NJGPA update.
Okay, quick introduction. So each year, in recent years, the Department of Education has required high schools in New Jersey to administer an assessment to their 11th grade students to determine their level of progress towards being a high school graduate that we believe will have some level of academic or post-secondary success. So the state actually has become a little bit more efficient in terms of the turnaround, in terms of that data. Districts have a 60-day window to present the information to the Board of Education. So we got the data at the beginning of the summer, so we find ourselves in a position to be able to share that tonight. So I'm going to turn things over to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Assessment, Ms. Sandy Small.
Thanks, Mark. As Mark said, this is one of the earliest times we receive this data, which is nice to be able to give it prior to the year starting, so that any adaptations that we want to do, we're going to have the year to do it and not have to do it midstream. So as Mark shared, that this is an 11th grade test, so all 11th grade students minus one subgroup takes this assessment. So moving forward, what we're trying to look through is starting with the English language arts portion. So the first slide that we have the data on is really coming through talking how we fared against the state in each of the demographic groups. So I'm going to just draw your attention to the first two lines that say state and district. And what you'll notice is that the average scale score, it was 767 for the state. The district was at a 770, and this is for ELA. So we were slightly ahead of where the state was, which is good, but we still want to go much better. Like, we're not happy just being equal to the state. We always want to strive to be better. But when you look at the percentage of our students in 11th grade who tested graduation ready, the state was at 81.6%. our district was at 86.1%. And our next slide, we're gonna be able to see where we were last year versus this year. If you look at each of the demographic groups, you will see each of them, with the exception of Hispanic or Latino, were above the state average for graduation ready. And then when you look at the economically disadvantaged versus non-economically disadvantaged, that actually, you may think that looks bad, that actually is not a bad statistic. When you're looking at 80% of our students who are economically disadvantaged are graduation ready. That is higher than we typically would do, so that's a great stat. So even though they're not meeting the state, they're really close to where the state is. You will see special ed at 74%. Again, that is a great percentage grade for our special ed students. I want to call your attention to they still consider it ELL when we're talking about multilingual learners. That number is lower. One of the things I will say to you throughout the presentation is that for the multilingual learners, at the end of August or beginning of September, we will run a presentation for access testing so that every time we see the multilingual learner numbers, we get into a little, oh my God, they're not learning. Sometimes the assessments that we're giving aren't measuring what those students are learning in order to build them to the language readiness. The access test, along with our internal data that talks about their L1, will help us see how they are progressing. So I'm just going to ask you to keep that in the back of your mind. Our next slide is going to compare last year's data to this year's data. So if we focus on the last two columns, you will see the 2023 percentages versus 2024 percentages. I'm sorry, 2024 grade level or graduation ready percentages. What you will notice is that both the state and the district both are statistically equal in they both increase approximately 1 percentage point in graduation ready. What I would go through and tell you to look through is look at the last column where I have green, where you have the Black or African American population and those who register as other, which are typically more than one of the demographics that are in there. You will see that those have risen greater than where the state is. So if you go through and say that the Black and African American were at 88.9%, they rose to a 93.9%. The other is a 50% to 100%. That is, I'll caution you, because that can sometimes be that in 1 year it may only be 4 or 5 students, another year maybe 14 students. So that number may be a little bit misleading in there. So just that I caution you on that one. But if you look at the average scale score, which is your third column, and the greens there, you will see how each of our demographics were in relationship to the state and the overall district scale score on that. Our next slide, and this one's a little bit hard to read from where you are unless you're on your computer. What we tried to go through here is to look at the ELA levels versus the NJGPA data. So when we go through and on that very bottom, it's a really small box, so you didn't have to go back and forth. I tried to put what the state and the district overall data was so that if you want to go back and forth for yourself, you can do so. But what we're going to notice here is we look at the total population versus the general population split out with the special ed and the multilingual learners. You see a big discrepancy in graduation readiness there. Then when you go into the levels with the AP and dual enrollment students, they're at a 97.9% graduation ready. The honors students at a 95.8 academic. We're struggling with our special ed, which is already indicated up above, our SEI and our standard level students. The one thing I want to be able to address here is if you see the SEI, that's our sheltered English instruction, which is English for our multilingual learners. You'll see that 17 students did not assess, and that's because in the state, as a first year ELL student, you do not have to assess in the ELA assessment. They have to test in math, but they don't test in ELA. So that's where that number is so high there. Then we try to go through and say, okay, well, how does this fare with how students are going to be ready for college? So SAT gives what they call college and career readiness benchmarks. And within those benchmarks, what they say, and that's a sliding scale, which I have on the other thing, and that's not going to be like something that's fixed in stone. So as they go through and they look at their benchmarks, they're gonna say, if students meet these benchmarks, there's a 75% chance that students will earn a C or better in a first semester. In this case, for the ELA, would be your history, literature, social sciences, or writing classes. And for the SAT math, a C or better in a calculus, pre-calculus, calculus, or college algebra class. So that's where we compare the SAT data in here. So our next slide, this is just where it talks to you about what they consider their benchmark scores in here for the PSAT 9, 10, 11, and then the SAT. One of the things, we're gonna have a limited SAT data because many of our students take SAT between junior and senior year in the summer, as well as in the first semester or first quarter in senior year. So when we come back to the levels versus the PSAT and SAT, what you're going to notice is very similarly to what the NJGPA said, is that 98% of our students who are in AP and dual enrollment are college ready. And you're going to go through looking at that in all of those demographics in there. So very similarly to what NJGPA said, the PSAT, SAT says that. And then the last column does not have everything in because what I just shared, not all of our students have taken the SAT already, but just that you can see those students who have taken it, where they're faring at this point. Then we move over to math. What you're going to see, if you remember what the percentage was for NJGPA ready for ELA, is very much in contrast to the NJGPA in math. So in math, the state is at 54.7%, the district is at 56.5%. So slightly above, but nothing to be throwing a party about, but we're moving in the right direction. What you will see in this slide with demographics is that we have the Hispanic and Latinos that have fallen behind very similarly to ELA, but we also have our Black or African American students that have fallen behind in math as well on this assessment. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to that. So if you also look at your multilingual learners, all of those students are going to be in that population at that 6.5% of passing. Our next slide, when we compare from the spring of 2023 to the spring of 2024, this brings some hope to where we're looking, so that the last slide, you might be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What you're going to see is that the state as an overall decreased by 0.3 percentage point from last year to this year in math. Our district increased by 5.6 percentage points. So we're moving in the right direction. We're not where we want to be. We want to be much better than that, but we're moving in the right direction. What you will also notice that, so as we talked about, sometimes you have to look at some of those smaller wins. When you look at our Hispanic or Latino population, they've increased 8.3 percentage points, which is even greater than our overarching students are doing. And then our Black and African American students who are still below the state, they've increased more than 10 percentage points from last year. So we are moving our populations in the right direction. And then you will see wherever you see the green, you're going to see where we are above the state. And that's what we're looking at on this slide. Again, the math, we're going to do comparative levels. The math is not as clean when we're looking at levels as ELA is, because math students can be in a variety of courses in junior year. They can be anywhere from Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, Calculus, or multivariable. So, an AP Calculus. So those honors, those says honors classes, if they're not in honors pre-calculus, then they're just on level, they're not above level. So even though they're in there, that's where that 70% of honors comes into play, that those students are there increasing. And we'll see on the next slide where we were from last year. But that's where you're looking at in this slide. Oh, I must have missed a slide. I apologize, I don't have, I'm sorry, I switched these around. We did have a 23 versus 24 on that one. And then what we want to talk about is what did we do this year to see any type of an increase? So one of the things that we looked at is that students were invited to a test prep after school. For this, we had 59 invites in math, only 14 students said yes and attended regularly. ELA, 45 students were invited, 13 accepted and attended regularly. of those students who accept it, you will see where their pass rate is there. The other thing that happened is this was not something that happened in every academic level class, but there were some test prep questions from NJGPA that were incorporated in academic level classes. What we noticed is that those classes that did have some of those preps were those students who were much more successful than those classes that were not. So moving forward, our plans for improvement are that any of our students who are approaching expectations will be invited to retest in the fall. That's one of the things the state has given us the opportunity last year and this year for. So we're still awaiting what our testing windows are for the fall, for the coming school year. But once we have them, we will be inviting those students, and that's usually the end of September, beginning of October. So that's pretty quick. That's not something that we have a couple months to prep for. And then that's only for 12th graders who have either tested or who are new to the country and things like that are in there. Then our grade 11 students for the 24-25 school year who show signs of readiness but not quite there will be invited to again an after-school test prep program with targeted assistance. And then there will be embedded supports in all academic classes in ELA and math for 11th grade students. And that concludes. And that's probably a record for me in presenting. So those of you who have heard me over the years, like, holy cow, I can't believe she's finished. So questions?
I just want to confirm comparing the 23 to 24 school year, it would be different students completely, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not the apples and oranges, and this is one of those areas that we only can compare apples and oranges. We can't compare the growth in there because it's a single test. But good call, Colleen.
Paul, can we put this on for old business in case people have questions at the next meeting? Thanks, Sandy. Moving on to item 3, superintendent report.
Okay, good evening, everyone, again. Just a few updates tonight. I'd like to begin actually just by highlighting some of our students. We've engaged this summer, and actually prior to now, but this summer we did launch something as it relates to students and having them engage in some work readiness experience. So we launched kind of a custodial intern program, intern program, and we kind of went through some recruitment for students that were interested in working during the summer. So I'm definitely pleased that we had about 8 students who've been working with our custodial crew throughout the summer with some real life work experiences. I just want to give those students some acknowledgement tonight. Rodolfo Jaramillo, Braden Kleinkoff, Catherine Lopez Carrillo, Fabian Ramirez Valencia, Nidalise Rodriguez Otero, Matthew Wilburn, Aiden Wilton. We also have some kid care workers, and we've been doing this prior to now, but we are also looking forward to this year where we have our high school students assisting at our kid care before and after school, but primarily after school with our high school students. So as we look forward to the upcoming school year, we've identified a cohort of students that will be working. I just want to also acknowledge those students tonight. We have Lizbeth Chasey Sakupe, Duerto Paredes, Michaela Hirschman, Ivy Loja Jarama, Lorces Monge Quinde, Dia Patel, and Charlie Vance. And as we've always done, we've had a little bit of a summer hiatus. We've also engaged a student videographer for a number of things, but board meetings being one of them. So if you recall, Jesse was our videographer for a number of years. This year coming up, we'll have Thomas Rispoli. Thomas has helped us out before, but he'll be the consistent presence for the upcoming school year. So I just want to give a moment just to highlight, I would consider them our student employees. Written Out Loud is a program that we've been connected with for the past few years in terms of promoting creativity and passion and a love of reading. This summer, we continued that process with some sessions throughout the summer. I think we're concluding the 5th session at this point. We've had 252 participants in total this summer. And as you know, at the conclusion of those sessions, there's usually kind of a book presentation component that acknowledges the hard work and collaboration of the students who participated. In terms of midsummer, we'll be sending out a midsummer update, I'm going to say next week, I believe, right, Elise? So we'll have some need-to-know information for families within that update. One thing that obviously is at the top of mind at this time of the year for families and students will be the date when, elementary teacher assignments are posted, as well as middle school and high school schedules for students, as well as bus pass information. So that information will be available at 9 a.m. On August 23rd, and that'll be via the Genesis Parent Portal. All right, so August 23rd, 9 a.m., K-5 teacher assignments, middle school, high school schedules, and bus passes. In conclusion this evening, I just want to welcome someone who's being recommended this evening for the EMK assistant principal position. Her name is Ms. Suzanne Ackley. Suzanne currently serves as a curriculum supervisor in the Franklin School District. Looking forward to her joining our team. So I just wanted to give her a warm welcome this evening. And with that said, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Did you say there were 5 written out loud sessions this summer? Okay. And are they all online?
Virtual.
Thanks. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to item 4, first opportunity for board member comments. Is there any board member who wishes to speak or have a comment?
Can I just say how amazing it is, written out loud, has 5 sessions. How amazing. Also, I had an opportunity to attend the concert. So there was a concert, so the kids, the younger learners, had an opportunity to participate in the summer program where they can play instruments, and they had a concert. So what they were able to accomplish in 12 days was amazing. They played a few different songs, and I was blown away. It was really nice, and it was nice to see that the students were excited to go to school. They were excited to play the instruments, and the program was just really nice. And then that's it. Thank you.
Do any other board members have any comments?
Ms. Brijoli, earlier you mentioned you went to the ESY program?
Oh yes, I did. Thank you for reminding me. I got an opportunity. I got an opportunity to go to Walter C. Black, and the Bay actually invited me, and it was nice. You know what I was really blown away by? The teachers. The teachers were so excited to be there. They were just so happy to be there, and then the students could feel the compassion and then just the excitement of the teachers, that the students were happy to be there. And it was nice to see I didn't realize that there was different levels of challenges, and to see how the school was able to accommodate the different challenges, but not just for the younger learners, but it went all the way up to some of the older children as well. And then they also had, what I was really impressed with is one of the students from years past actually wants to be a teacher. So they actually invited him this summer to try out being a teacher. So he was able to assist as far as like an assistant. So it was nice to see. It was just all around a great experience. And I can't wait for everyone to be able to, if you guys, had the opportunity to go and just to check out the program. And then I got to see the mural, which was really nice. Oh my God, it was so intricate. And then I got to see the garden that they have outside and the additions that they've added to the garden outside. And then just to see the staff they were just so involved, from the principal to just everybody. It was awesome. It was really awesome to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on Jean's comment about the concert. I know we've had band programs before, but this was like a great expansion of that, and I think I hope it's a fixture. I hope it doesn't go anywhere, and we offer that opportunity to rising middle schoolers in the future. And I think it was multiple classes, right? So, and anywhere we can deploy that kind of supplemental summer programming, not as a catch up, but even just an opportunity for advancement, or that's.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. It was elementary and middle school. We didn't have any high school students in there. I was talking with Ms. Gopal, the visual performance supervisor, and we were considering potentially expanding that next year as well. But yeah, the summer camp was definitely a huge success, and the quality of the student performances and also the commitment of them showing up every day was really noticeable. And you have to put a lot of that down to our teachers who are enthusiastic and instilling a sense of the love for music. But clearly when you think of summer camps and it's fun, but there was obviously an element of seriousness in terms of the quality of those performances. So I definitely would like to make sure we support that moving forward.
You know, it was nice to see with the concert, the teachers actually joined in on the music. So it was almost like a jam session. So you saw some of the teachers got behind playing the different instruments, and it was just really nice to see people doing what they love and also being engaging with the students and having the students also love to play.
If there's no more,
I just wanted to follow up on my comments from the last meeting and see if there's any update on the Twilight program.
Update in terms of starting the program. The only thing we're in the process of doing right now is establishing, and I think I shared this at the last meeting, some teacher support for identified students to begin kind of piloting that program, but not a grand scale launch. But we are looking at having teachers providing some unique support to students that we think fall under that umbrella of being over age undercredited at the high school.
And then, I'm just putting it back so we have it on our list. Not that we need an answer tonight, but some of the items were an update on the end of year STAR testing, and some information on Title I and who is qualified for that and so forth. And then any additional feedback on the curriculum software that we're piloting.
I will get back to you on each of those items.
Yep. That's all, thanks.
any other questions or comments? We'll move on. First opportunity for public comment. Are there any members of the public who have a comment?
Excuse me, could you please hit the speaker so the red light comes on? Thank you.
All right. Jess Colleton, 38 Brooklawn Drive. So, I don't know if you have high schoolers, but this comes out once a year. The yearbook, $90, you can have your own. Yeah, $90. What do the kids do when they first get it? They look for their picture, right? Well, if you flip over to the sports section, you'll notice that every single sport, except golf, have a varsity and JV picture. Every other sport, either everyone's together and they have a group picture, or they have a varsity and JV picture. Golf only has varsity. Golf has 10 kids on the team. 6 are on varsity. So 4 were excluded. I asked the yearbook committee what happened, because if you look through the book, it's pretty much a template. Varsity, JV, varsity, JV. Oh, you get to golf, There's only one. What happened? You mean to tell me somebody didn't recognize that? Somebody didn't notice that? And the yearbook committee tells me a couple different things. They tell me, oh, the deadline is April 1st. It's really hard to get those spring pictures in there. Well, every other spring sport is in there. And they tell me, oh, the kids put the book together. So, you know, it is what it is. But you have a committee, you have a yearbook committee that oversees the kids, that makes sure that this book comes out and includes varsity and JV for all the sports. But they didn't. And they're paid adults to do this. But they didn't. So you tell me they couldn't call down 4 kids from class and take a picture when they noticed that JV was missing? They didn't bother. So it's not because they didn't get a professional picture done. They did. I bought it. It's not because there was just, you know, so many kids and my kid actually was absent. Nope. It was just not a JV picture. I don't want to hear about how the district cares emotionally and socially about each individual student, because that tells me you don't. How crummy is it for the JV to not even get a picture in here? The only sport. What message does that send to those kids? That's not fair. And there's nothing you can do about it now. And there's nothing they could do once this came out in June.
10 seconds, please.
And the last thing I want to say is, Paula and Karen, thank you for speaking up and sticking with the board. The public and the parents need to hear what you have to say. We need to know for November, because I believe there are 4 seats up for re-election. And we need to know everything that goes on.
Time, please.
Good evening, my name is Bruce Kramer. I also live at 38 Brookline Drive. I just wanted to follow up briefly on the situation with the yearbook. Look, I totally get it. You guys have a lot going on with strategic planning and budgets and capital planning. But the yearbook is a big deal for those kids and their sense of community. And it is the first thing that they do when they get that is they open it up and they look where their picture is. And then you open it up to the athletics and you hear womp womp and your picture's not there and it says not included. It's just not cool. And I totally understand that yearbook is a student-run project, but there is adult oversight, and those adults are the stewards of the experience that those kids could have. For a kid who had to be encouraged and pushed and even bribed a little bit to go out for a sport here, it's just a really bad experience, and it's just not inclusive. And we're bringing it up here just because we did bring it up with the yearbook committee and the vendor and the athletic department, and we got a lot of just kind of not a lot of accountability. I know some other parents feel the same way that we do, that we're on, and it's just disappointing, and we could just do better next year. Thanks.
Obviously I don't know what happened, but obviously I appreciate you sharing that tonight. And not to make this a conversation, but did you talk to the high school administration in the process?
No, I find them useless.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for sharing your comments tonight. And obviously, I agree with you in terms of any team that a student participates on, regardless of the level, should be included in the yearbook. So I just need to do some investigation regarding why that occurred to ensure it won't happen again.
Are there any other members of the public who have any comments? If not, we will move to executive session. We should be gone for about a half hour and then we'll come back.
So it wasn't February.
No, it's just the football team was gonna get one 2 years ago.
If everyone could just please refresh your board docs, I had to refresh the committee meeting dates, it was outdated.
Okay, the board's back in session. We will now move on to item 6, old business. Item A is committee meetings. Hopefully everybody was able to refresh their screen to look at the dates for the upcoming committee meetings, and 2 met today, wellness and policy. We also have an item on here, if anyone had any follow-up questions from Mr. Rowe's special education update from the last meeting. If anybody had any questions or thoughts. Anyone?
Just something on the finance committee, I won't be able to attend that meeting on the 9th.
I should say I won't be at the policy meeting on the 26th, but I'll have the homework done.
Will you be turning that in to someone?
Virtually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We have a spreadsheet. We'll go into it.
Oh, that's all right. I was kidding. Anybody else?
I also will not be here on the 26th due to travel.
I also will not be here August 26th. I'm definitely not here.
3.
No,
I'm just missing the
Pauline.
policy meeting on the 9th.
26 is 3 people.
Okay. Still gives us 6 as of right now, I guess.
Yep. If anybody else has any travel plans for the 26th, if you could just let Paul know, so we'll know if we have, Karen, you're looking at me like you're going somewhere. Are you going somewhere?
Well, before you move on, the committee meeting notes that Tina sent out on the curriculum committee. Could we have a full board discussion on that, maybe when can we put that on the agenda for when she's here to discuss
Sure.
that as a full board?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to discuss her notes if she's not here.
No, that's
so,
why I
yeah.
said maybe put it on for next time she'll be here, we could discuss it, because since she sent it out, she probably could speak about it.
Can we put that under old business, please?
I have a question. I thought we talked about maybe making the curriculum, like for all the board to attend.
The way I understand it, it was brought up for a discussion, but we never had the discussion.
I'm gonna talk about that when we get to our policy committee meeting.
And then for the special are we done with the Okay. For the special education, did we come up with dates on when we can go and visit the school? Remember, for the board members to go to the school to see, like to go to Walter C. Black to see the program in action?
No, so I'll reach out and see some. To visit programs within the school district beyond ESY? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll put some dates out and put a brief description of what it is we're looking to visit, okay?
All right, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the special ed follow-up? None? Okay. Second opportunity for board member comments. I guess anyone, Jean, did you want to?
So the Wellness Committee met today, and we talked about Care Solace overview. So Care Solace is a mental health care coordination service that assists individuals in finding appropriate mental health care providers and services. They handle inbound interactions and appointments to streamline access to care. Although we're experiencing a high in usage, there is a drop-off in use when compared with last year. For example, inbound interactions decreased from 864 for the school year 2022 to 23 to 412 for the school year 223-24, a reduction of 452 interactions. The one thing to note on that, though, I believe we talked about that it's actually open to it's open to the public. So it wasn't, I believe, right, Dave? It's open to the public. So it's not just when we're talking about the experiences, it's not just students, but it's also staff, it's also community members, it's the stakeholders as well. It's not just for students. All right, so for threats and suicide assessments, mostly low-level threats with a few moderate threats, and no high-level threats were reported, which is awesome. For Rutgers University Behavioral Health Clinicians, which offers a range of mental health services, including therapy, crisis intervention, and case management. It supports students by providing access to professional mental health resources and consultation with school staff. The referrals increased from the school year 2022 to 23. It was at 147, but this past school year it was at 162. The high school did increase with referrals, and so did Melvin H. Krebs. The common issues, though, were depression and anxiety. And anxiety actually went up from 61 to 83 this past school year. All right, and then when we talk about the one thing I did ask was the therapy. So they also have family therapy, and I thought that was interesting. But the family therapy is done in school, but it can also be done over the phone. It's not done at the person's house. And then when they find the one of the best ways that they find issues is through GoGuardian. GoGuardian, like when like a student researches for something, GoGuardian catches that word and then sends it off, and then notifies the counselors for them to get involved. All right. So during the school year, twice in the school year, once in October, and then the close to the end of the school year, May, June, there was a survey. 3 to 5 and 6 to 12 students did the survey. For grades 3 to 5, there was positive responses in student engagement and social emotional learning increased slightly compared to the previous year. However, there were some concerns regarding school climate, particularly in feelings of safety and belonging. For grades 6 through 12, there was a noticeable improvement in students' perceptions of their emotional regulation skills. However, challenges persisted in the areas of peer relationships and overall school climate, indicating that there is a need for targeted intervention. But when they did the one thing with the results for the survey is the students felt that they were really being supported by the teachers. And then the final thing that we talked about was vape sensors. So vape sensors are going to be deployed, so have already actually been installed in the high school, and they're going to be installed in the middle school before the school year begins. And then once the vape sensor senses that a student has been vaping, then it sends a notification to administration, and then that way they can act on it. For where the sensors are, there might not be like any visual, but when the person comes out of the location where they're at, then when they're like in a public area, there are cameras, and then they can pinpoint timing and know who was actually vaping. And that's it. Any questions?
The vape sensors are in all the bathrooms?
Dave, are they in all the bathrooms?
Are they the same brand as last year in the high school? Because
We did two different things. We initially went with a different brand, and then that wasn't a good model for us. So we transitioned to Halo, had some consultation with other school districts that have used it, and it seems to be an effective model. So we piloted those at the end of last year, and then we've expanded that. So all high school bathrooms, all middle school bathrooms will have detectors.
So there won't be cameras in the bathrooms, but when they come out the bathrooms, they'll be able to see it. And I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
I was just curious about the sensors. I mean, obviously everybody knows they're there, but are they big? Are they?
They're not huge. I mean, obviously, what we anticipate, we're doing this more as a deterrent, to be honest with you, right? But they're not huge, but I think, once we communicate with students and so forth, I think they'll be looking for them, right? And we're telling them that every bathroom's gonna have it. So they're not huge, but it looks like a sensor, on the ceiling.
And they're not easy to,
No, you can't,
Right.
can't damage them, no.
because I know the bathrooms, there's some issues that happen in the bathrooms with the property.
I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention, we talked about Higher Up. Higher Up is a nonprofit organization that works with the school district in helping students, like juniors and seniors, find jobs. And what they do is they have trainings in the schools, and the trainings are actually paid through Mercer County Community College. They help support the the students. And once the students have the trainings, they also have programs that help them to, using grants, of course, help them buy clothes. Like, let's say they have a job at a law firm, they help them buy clothes. That way they can actually accept the job at the law firm, and they help them find jobs and get on their feet when they come out of high school.
Dave, can you just clarify the students that program is geared toward? It's not all students, is it? Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jean? Does policy committee have to report out?
So in our policy committee meeting, the first thing we did was we went over all of the policies on the agenda that were up for first reading. There was no concerns over the mandated policy for use of electronic communication and recording devices. The board committee's policy, it gives an option within the writing to have committee as a whole. And I thought that would be a good board discussion, because I think that there's a lot of pros to doing committees as a whole, because I feel like a lot of our committee meetings get canceled and they're only an hour before our board meetings, and sometimes they're rushed. So a committee as a whole, since we already have 2 board meetings scheduled that we know we need to be here for on Mondays, the first meeting could potentially be a working meeting, and then the second board meeting would be the take action. So that would of course have to be up for board discussion, but this policy does allow the wording in it that we could decide that if we wanted to do that. And I know we had mentioned possibly doing curriculum that way. I don't really know how that works if it's only one, but I don't know how we would do that at a meeting. But if we did one, and we could try it out for a year, Mark said, and we could always go back. But anyway, the policy allows that, but I think we should think about it, because I don't know necessarily.
Was it the whole policy committee? Who was on the policy? Like, is that what you
All of
all
us were here.
decided?
No, we just said we're gonna have.
No, right, but
all of us
you were
were here.
saying you. I just wanted to see, was that what was discussed with the whole policy committee?
Well, I brought it
discussing.
up, and
Okay.
we said that would be a good idea for a board discussion.
Okay. I wasn't sure everybody who's on policy. Colleen? Jen? Okay. Thank you.
We don't cancel our meetings, just so you know.
The homework policy, we were okay with all the wording in there. The only thing I had a concern about that the absence time frame for making up the work was not in it, but we then looked and Mark said it's actually in the student handbook. So that was okay. It specifies what a reasonable amount of time was. Student use of vehicles on the school grounds. There was nothing wrong with the wording in that, but I did bring up the issue with juniors parking, and Mark's gonna look into how many spots are available with the high school administration, because I know there was a little bit of parent pushback. There could possibly be more spots than what the lottery allowed. But nothing was wrong with the wording in that one. Dress and grooming, they purposely left it loosely written so that the schools had the more freedom to put it in their handbook. And the privately owned technology, we don't have one, so this was a good start. Colleen had some concerns and would like there to be more community engagement in discussing that policy, but this would be a good start because we don't have any yet. Getting teachers' opinions, student opinion, parent opinions. And then we moved on to the policy audit, how we would address that, and we decided we're going to start at 0 and work our way through all of the policies in the handbook. So what we're doing is each policy member is taking a page front and back, and we are going to have a working doc where we say whether we're going to remove it and eliminate it because it doesn't apply to us, if it's good, or if it just needs revision. So we have our first list that we're going to then come back and report back on. Our next policy meeting is August 26th. So we're just going to work our way through the policy handbook. And then the last thing we discussed was a policy for AI. Because this is new and we don't have one, Mr. Daniels is working with administration team on discussing wording for an AI policy.
Does policy committee, since Colleen and Mike both won't be here, did you guys want to reschedule that, or are you fine with going forward on the 26th?
I think
No. I mean, I'd be fine with missing it because if that date works best with the others, because I'll put in my notes anyway, and I'm able to
Just
look
wanted
at
to check with
others.
everybody.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Okay.
We have a defined goal for the 26th, so I think
Okay.
Connor and I both can.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any other board member comments?
I just have one. Last meeting, I said that I had questions on one of the policies, but that I'd hold off to this meeting because we had to end. And it was just the eligibility of resident, non-resident students. When it says under 20 years of age, is that 20 like the start of the school year, or that's a student can come, or if they turn 20 during the school year, they're not eligible?
What was the specific question?
So is it, so if someone is, if someone's birthday is like September 9th, and they turn 20 September 9th, but the school year started before that, would they still be eligible for that school year?
I'd have to check. Let me check on that. What did the policy language say?
Persons over 5 and under 20 years of age.
Right. So if you meet that threshold, then we educate you. You exceed 20, then no.
From the start of the school year.
But if someone came in, we've been dealing with some of that. I mean, we try to look at some alternatives, but the statute indicates it's a 5 to 20 dynamic. So I think you're saying if you turn 20, would we still educate you? Is that really the question?
So is it 20, like, you have to be under 20 at the first day of school?
I believe so, but let me double check. Because I think if you come to us and you're 20, I have to check to see if we're obligated to still educate. We might, just because it's.
The answer is no.
Okay.
If you've attained the age of 20 prior to the start of the school year, you've aged out of the school district, unless you're a special ed student, in which case there's other age parameters. But if you turn 20 during your final year, most districts I'm aware of don't split hairs and they let you finish out the school year. I don't think they kick you out.
Right. And then, do we ever recertify eligibility? I had read Freehold does it annually, and then there was a news article, I forget which district, it was somewhere in central Jersey, that they're now making, I can't remember the grades, 6th and 9th, or like 2 different grades every year, recertified at their residence in the district.
No, I don't believe so, but I'll look into that. All right. I think at this point, we're kind of dealing with situations on an individual basis. If we believe there's some element of suspicion regarding residency, but I don't think we have a formalized process to do it en masse. But I'll check with our truancy person.
Are there any other comments?
I had a question about if it's okay about policy 5514, the student use of vehicles. When it talks about juniors in good standing, does that mean like good standing as far as academically, or is that like no disciplines? What is the in good standing?
Could be both, one or both.
But then seniors, they don't fall under that, right? So like if a senior, is not doing well in school or.
Well, what I'll say is parking is a privilege. So there could be times where you may jeopardize that privilege depending on the decision that you have made.
I wanted to bring up, or did you?
I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to bring up board retreat. I know that people had been reaching out. You've been talking, some of you were talking amongst yourselves about dates. I only had 3 people email me, and it looks like now we're gonna have to wait until probably the fall with schedules. However, if there are specific topics that you think would be useful for a retreat, if you want to send an email, that'd be great. If there's no other board comments, we'll move on to second opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak. There being none, we'll move on to item 8.
Item 8, mandated policies for first reading. Policy 5516, use of electronic communication and recording devices.
Second.
Did we second? Any questions? Poll the board, please.
1 second, please. Right. Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Bajoli,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Patel,
Yes.
Ms. Salter,
Yes.
Ms. Colley.
Yes.
Item 9, recommended policies for first
Ms.
reading.
LaRusso did not vote.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, all the names dropped out of my voting, so I'm sorry, Ms. LaRusso.
Yes. Yes. Item 9.
Recommended policies for first reading. A, bylaw 0155, board committees. B, policy 2330, homework. C, policy 5514, student use of vehicles on school grounds. D, policy 5511, dress and grooming. E, policy 2363, student use of privately owned technology.
Second.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, I just wanted to state, Karen had touched on this before. I mentioned this in the policy meeting, so I just wanted it to be on the record. For E, the student use of privately owned technology, I'm just gonna vote no on that, because I am glad that we have this policy. That's not why I'm voting no. I'm very glad we're having one, because we didn't have one. The only reason I'm voting no is just I wish it went a step further. I think I would just personally and for the board would want that, in terms of making sure that privately owned technology remains away during, it says instruction time right now. I would like that to go a step further and say the school day. But we talked about it in the meeting. I respect the decision of why it's the way it is, but just that's why I'm voting no. So it's not, against the policy, just a more personal reason.
Thank you, Colleen. Any other questions? Poll the board, please.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes, no on E.
Ms. Brijoli,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Patel,
Yes.
Ms. Salter,
Yes.
Ms. Collier,
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes. Item 10. Wait, Mark just has a comment.
Yes, let me just, on item, before we go into this, on item H, approval of curriculum documents, I'm gonna ask that the board, or we can just document that I'm not asking for the board to approve grade K ELA. The reason why is that grade 1 and grade K are duplicates. So grade K is gonna pull up the grade 1 curriculum. So I'm asking the board, when you're voting on those items, just grade 1 ELA, grade 2 ELA, grade 1 math, grade 2 math, grade K math. No grade K ELA. Okay? Thank you.
Motion to approve routine items by exception. Having read the materials received, I move that the board approve the routine agenda items as submitted. A, staffing 8/5/2024. B, MOA ERISA 2022 through 2026. C, subrates EWRSD 2024-25. D, contract assistant superintendent. E, contract assistant superintendent HR. F, contract business administrator. G, HIB report from July 15th, 2024. H, approval of curriculum documents. I, approval Hightstown High School overnight cheerleading trip to Pine Forest Cheerleading Camp, Chestnut Lake, PA, August 2024. J, approved travel and related expenses, virtual and in person. K, ESEA, approval of submission of fiscal year 2024-25, Title 1, 2, 3 immigrant and 4. L, Catapult Learning, LLC, Chapter 192/193. M, EWRSD 2024-25 Virtual Remote Learning Plan. N, Out-of-District Placement. O, Professional Services for Students. P, Mercer County Technical School Tuition Agreement. Q, Transportation Bid Approval Correction. R, Parent Transportation Contract 2024-25 school year. S, Board Minutes for July 15th, 2024. T, Executive Minutes for July 15th, 2024. U, Report of the Board Secretary and Financial Report, June 2024. V, Expense and Transfer Reports of School Monies, Report for June 2024. W, Bill List of August 5th, 2024.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to explain why I will be voting no for items D, E, and F. It has nothing to do with the people or their performance, but more of the process. There was no finance committee meeting to discuss these contracts or to develop them. And I just don't feel, I feel like I have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers, and there was no discussion with our finance committee, and I'm not okay with that. Also, the executive minutes on item T, I don't know if you've read them, but I feel that they're a little bit too vague. I feel like if you read the executive minutes, there's not, they really can be applied to almost any other exec session except for 2 sentences, and I just feel like if it's ever Oprah'd, those should have a little bit more detail than they do. And we do state that when confidentiality is no longer an issue, they could be released. So I just feel that those should be a little bit more detailed.
Oh, before you, since we have the board attorney, did you have any, is there any guidelines for executive minutes?
Well, it's maybe inappropriate to discuss out in public here the details of those, and you haven't, so we're not going to do that. But in terms of the format and how general or specific they need to be, our courts have held that executive session minutes do not have to be, how detailed they need to be is really a matter of up to the board to decide. I will tell you, some boards have tried going into great detail, almost to the point of a verbatim account. Most of them that have tried have given it up because when you try to have anything that is too detailed, particularly when it's a back and forth discussion, you're not going to please anybody. There's always going to be a complaint that it's either under-inclusive or over-inclusive or emphasized somebody's position over somebody else's position. Executive session minutes need to be accurate in the sense that they can't be false or misleading, so that if there is a description of a consensus that was reached or a topic that was discussed, it can't be false. But in terms of how specific it needs to be, it's really up to the board. That's all the law has to say about it. How general or specific you want to be in this particular case with these minutes is up to you, but if there's going to be a discussion of what those minutes are going to look like in terms of specificity, that in itself should be a closed session discussion, other than just a general discussion of, your feelings about generality or specificity in general. That's a public session discussion.
And then my other question for you is, how is it determined when confidentiality no longer exists?
Well, there's just under 600 school districts in New Jersey, and you're going to get about 700 different answers to that question. The law says that they should become public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. I don't know a single district that has somebody reviewing private session minutes each and every meeting and making a decision on a daily basis about when it's subsided or not. What typically happens is that they're revealed when somebody makes a request. And then when somebody makes a request for them, typically what happens is that discussions had, perhaps with the board attorney if necessary, determine whether there's a legitimate need for confidentiality, and maybe that portions of the private session minutes no longer need to be confidential and other portions of the same minutes do. So it's usually done in terms of what the norms are. It's usually done promptly when somebody makes a request. I think a plausible reading of the law could be that somebody's supposed to be continually reviewing them and on our own, without even being asked, releasing them here and there. I don't know anybody who does that, but if you were to say to me, is there a plausible reading of the statute that would say that's probably something boards should be doing? I couldn't really disagree with that. It's just somebody would have to be taking time out of their day job to be doing that.
Thank you.
I just had a question on the curriculum being an executive content. Is there a reason we can't have them in public content?
Because it's not approved, that's all.
Oh, so they'll be posted once approved?
Right, well, a version of the curriculum, a smaller version of the curriculum. We have it in public right now. It's not approved by the board. And as you've talked about before, people can access it if it's on board docs publicly.
No, I understand that, but so if we approve it, then it doesn't get posted, like, it's.
Yeah, we put together a syllabus. We put together a parent version of it.
But is there a reason why we can't put out the curriculum?
Well, we've talked about this before. We're putting out just a smaller version of the curriculum, that's all, just a condensed version. A parent guide, that's really what it is. And the curriculum is still accessible if a parent requests it. We can definitely provide that. But in terms of what the public viewing is, it's a parent guide.
So is there a reason though why we don't want?
Well, one of the reasons is that, one, there's a lot of information contained within the curriculum in terms of resources and links that just aren't relevant for the average viewer who's going onto the website. They're for teachers to use for their planning. There's also some aspects of the curriculum that we want to preserve within the district from an intellectual property standpoint. And also the curriculum can be cumbersome, and we want it to be user-friendly. So if a parent's going on to see what their child's engaged in the topics and the standards that are addressed, and any necessary core resources or related resources, we believe that the parent guide will suffice. If the parent would like more, of course, we will provide that. But we don't think it is a good use of having the entire document visible to the entire public beyond our school district.
So is the parent guide then just the curriculum with things taken out? Or is it a different document? Because I know from last year, my daughter's parent guides were just like the chapters, topics.
Well, this year, based on where we are, there's a format that we're following for the parent guide that's really parallel to the curriculum. So it'll just be less dense, but ultimately the standards and the topics and the units and how students are assessed will be consistent within those guides.
And those don't get approved by the board?
They do, but we have to do the.
Okay,
the
no,
part-
I know, I
the
understand, I was just
curriculum
checking,
first. All right.
And then and I think I've asked this before and the answer is yes, but the cheerleading chip, it's $500 per, like the student. Do we offer support? I mean, that's a hefty fund for some families. Do we offer any support if they can't?
We do. So I'm going to backtrack this. We and the board supported this several years ago, where we do have funds within the high school that we offset co-curricular and extracurricular experiences. I'll have to double check on this because I agree with you. Obviously, we don't want finances to prevent a student from participation. I will commend the cheerleading team. They're pretty resourceful in terms of fundraising, so I'm not even sure if actually individual students are paying that, but I know that we have designed a process. We're trying to be equitable in terms of ensuring that, especially for like registration to certain competitions and some things associated with that, we will offset those costs for those teams. So I will follow up with the athletic department to determine the financial component related to that.
And then the catapult, is this for East Windsor and Heightstown residents that attend other schools in the area?
These are resources connected to non-public schools, so we're obligated to provide these supports. Petty doesn't really accept it, okay, but we're required to provide it.
Got it, okay, thank you. And then, as Karen stated, I just did not have time to review the contracts and the finances involved in it. And so it's nothing against the individuals that the contracts represent, it's just the financial aspect of it.
Paul, I just had a question on V, the transfer reports and the misappropriations. I remember the auditor saying, like, that was one of the fact findings of the audit, was a concern of the adjustments of the misappropriation of funds. Is that, is that what some of these, like what he's referring to, like the accounts, is that what a misappropriation is when you're taking it from one account and moving it to another? Because I just see that, and I didn't,
Yeah, I
Is
went
that,
back.
is that what that,
I saw your comment in the email, the other night. Actually went back because I didn't recall the auditor saying that, so I went back and reviewed the video. One of the findings, and maybe this is what you're thinking of, one of the findings in our audit was that at the end of the year, we have to make a determination on open purchase orders. And it goes into one of two categories, so it's more of a matter of a presentation on the balance sheet. So, it's a difference of an open encumbrance versus an accounts payable. So that was his comment, had
Oh,
nothing to
okay.
do, and I understand what you're asking, I would just be careful with the term misappropriation, cause that usually means something illegal.
right, well, that, I think the auditor said, well, that was my.
So he didn't mention anything about that, so, maybe
That-
we can huddle after the meeting or another time
Okay.
and talk about that, because I went back and his presentation was very short, I didn't catch him talking about that.
Okay,
But he did talk about, the classification of an open encumbrance versus accounts payable. So maybe that's what you're thinking about?
maybe, when he said that the funds were just, I thought he said on that misappropriate, I didn't know if that's what I was just concerned when I looked at this, that certain categories didn't match up to
Right.
so
So
I
no, that's a
was-
very good question. Actually, if you wanna take a look at the transfer report, that's the other document. And so we're actually allowed to do transfers without county approval. And we've, if something were to come up and there were large unbudgeted things that really threw lines out, we would have to submit that to the county. We did have a transfer, I guess, 3-4 months ago, around dealing with facilities that we had to send down to the county. But as of June 30th, there were no other categories that had to be submitted because of large transfers. So I think everything is appropriate, it's within norms accepted by the state.
Well, at one point, you very kindly gave out some very helpful information about reading these reports. So I wonder if you want to do that again.
Yeah, I have them, they're on YouTube, so
Oh, okay.
I can definitely share those links to the board again. Yeah, it's been a little,
Yeah.
it's been a couple years.
Yeah, they were really helpful.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, I
don't
can
know
share
numbers, but
that.
it might
Yeah,
be
sure.
helpful for folks.
No, it's a
Okay,
good idea.
thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. On the contracts, was the contracts attached to the email or anything? I just saw a letter. Do we, I was just,
The executive content, the contracts, they're in there.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Poll the board, please.
Ms. Drake?
Yes, except for, what was that one? T, because I wasn't there for executive.
So that would be an abstain on tape. Thank you. Ms. Murphy?
Yes, and there's 5. Abstain from A, B, D, E, and J.
Abstain on A, B, D, E, and J.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Pajoli?
Yes, but I'm sorry, I think I might have misunderstood. Did you want us to just, not approve, grade K ELA, right? All
Yes,
right,
that's gonna be
so-
that's gonna be tabled, that's gonna be tabled for tonight.
Okay, all right, so then, yes to everything.
Thank you. Mr. Weeks?
Approve all. Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Ms. Salter?
no to D, E, F, and T.
Ms. Collier? Ms. LaRusso?
For item A, line 44, abstain. yes to everything else.
Thank you.
There's no need for second executive session, motion to adjourn. Have a good night.